Yeah, and one of the things that got me really excited about is that we share the same things in Brazil too, like the same movements that we have, and American culture is really strong here too. So the Kardashians are icons here in Brazil as well, and some kids follow those trends, and it's really difficult and it's really dangerous to when they start thinking about changing their bodies and going to cosmetic surgery and not being happy with how they look and not being happy with how they behave and trying to have a life that's not supposed to be to fit them. It's crazy. So we discussed these things and it was really, really interesting. Really thankful for participating.
Yeah, we really had a great international flavor in our, in our talk. We had folk from all over the world in there. It was really interesting to hear the similarities and differences. I love it.
Okay, great.
How about someone from Nolan's talk for the adult college ed? I saw some messages people sent me in the chat, but how about saying it in the group here?
Good morning, James. This is Tony. I did send you a message and let you know that Nolan had a great breakout session. And what got me the most was the interaction by everybody in the session and the questions. One of the questions, before I could get it in the chat, somebody put it in there. So just the information and just the sharing of information and the way he shared it, I think that I can really take some of this and twist it up and use it in my organization as well as every day. So I'm appreciative of that. And just a conditioning aspect and media control was one of the main things that I took from that, and how we can go about, not manipulating, but how we can go about working with businesses as well as other organizations to stop the fake news, as well as not pretty much stop it, but at least explain it to children and even adults so we have a better understanding and the conditioning is kind of leveled off. Thanks.
Good stuff, Brother Tony. Anyone else want to share from one of their groups, elementary, middle, and high, or college and adult? All right. Yeah, go ahead. Andrew, just go ahead on and start talking.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't see the raise hand feature. Good morning, everyone. Just want to thank you all so much for organizing this beautiful event today. And as I'm listening to one another, and I was a part of Dr. Scher's session this morning, I'm just amazed by how applicable all these things that we're learning about are. And I was thinking specifically this morning about my parents and how we can use the tools of critical media literacy and how we can, they're not just for these like formal or siloed spaces, but how accessible and how we can share these within our communities and in smaller spaces. And I loved really thinking more deeply today about our roles of producers and the critical media we can produce and how we can push back on different problematic ideas that we're hearing and seeing in our everyday lives and communities. And so today, specifically the examples that Dr. Scher brought to us from children and that were created in these elementary school spaces just made me think about how I really want to think more about this production element and how I want to create these things with my family. So thank you all so much.
Spoken as a true future professor there.
Thank you, James.
Hi, I see we have some comments in the chat too, if you see those, if you want to read those.
Yes, we have a comment. Let's see, from someone who was in, I believe, the high school and middle school section. I learned so much from Renee's talk earlier, though she was not able to finish her talk. We were able to interact on different topics like objectifications of women, standards of beauty, and how these are all affecting the mental health of youth. I enjoyed learning the situations in Brazil, Malaysia, and the US. So great. Thank you, Mary Nell, for sharing that. And then Kristen Mattson also put in the chat a link related to multi-generational media literacy events. So I'll be sure to save that, and we can have that available to send out to everyone. Okay, so with that, I think we will move to the next portion of our event, our featured guest speaker, who is Kristen Mattson from Educating Digital Citizens. Kristen?
Sorry.
Yes.
Oh, before we get into that with Kristen.
Oh, sure.
Yes, Ebony might have to leave a little bit early, so I want to give her a chance to talk about News Literacy Project briefly if she's still on. Ebony, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, James.
We can change the schedule. We can get you in right now.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, let me just quickly introduce Ebony to everyone. Ebony Rice is with News Literacy Project, and she joined News Literacy Project in 2020 as Vice President of News Literacy Project's Educator Network. News Literacy Project is a strategic coalition builder and community engagement, or she is a strategic coalition builder and community engagement expert, and she has spent her career successfully scaling up campaigns and programs in the pursuit of equal access for all. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ebony.
Thank you so much, Tanya. I just wanted to greet you all on behalf of the News Literacy Project and thank each of you for being here today, this morning, afternoon, and evening. I also wanted to thank all of the speakers and facilitators for joining as well, and to Intellectual for partnering on this incredible event. I want to talk a little bit about what we do at the News Literacy Project, why we do it, and some of the things that we're working on that may be of interest to any of you on the line, whether you're an educator or not. Educators are our main focus, so we create resources and materials for the general public. So at the News Literacy Project, as Tanya mentioned earlier at the beginning of our event today, we are a nonprofit national education organization, and we really focus, and our mission is to get news literacy embedded into the American education experience. So my work connects the resources, supports, and programs that we create to classroom teachers so that news literacy can be taught in schools. And we do that on a number of levels, and we do that in a number of ways. And so this event that we're all a part of today is a byproduct of James Stansel, who has been an incredible partner and news literacy ambassador with us for the past several months, representing Houston and some of the other surrounding areas in the Texas area. And we're just so honored to be partnering with him. We're so honored to have Intellectual come alongside us in support of this mission. And so really what we do is we believe that education is one of the solutions to the media literacy and news literacy problem that we find ourselves in as a country and as a nation, as a world, really, because young people are in the most complicated digital ecosystem that has ever existed in the world, and education moves slowly, but technology moves very quickly. So at NLP, we believe that if we are not actively teaching the sensibilities and skills that people need to be participants in our democracy, to be civically engaged, to know how to sift through the digital ecosystem, we are actively disempowering them, and they will be casualties as they grow up and mature. And so our way of combating this is to create resources and support specifically for middle and high school students, but I'm happy to announce that we just released this month resources for upper elementary. So now we have resources for grades 4 through 12. A lot of our resources are also used at the college level, but really they tailor to that teenage age group. And we have a number of things. We have a virtual classroom, which is called Checkology, and it's free. It will forever be free. It's not like just pandemic free. It's a virtual classroom that you can use if you are an educator in your classes. It's pretty intuitive, but we also have technical support. So there's Checkology, which you can check out. Everything I'm saying, you can check out on newslit.org. There's our Checkology virtual classroom. It is amazing. Thank you, Kristen. The team that has put it together is just fantastic. We also recently released, as I mentioned, supports for the general public. So if you go to newslit.org and you click for the For Everyone tab, those are resources that are for anyone. Those just came out in 2020. And prior to 2020, we solely serviced educators, but now we have resources that are for anyone. So your family members, your friends, you yourself, if you aren't an educator and you want to take some of this information and the research that we've done and the partners that we've worked with to collect data, analyze it, and create the best in-class news literacy supports for anyone, you're more than welcome to just go ahead and do that. And then we also, and this is really one of the things that I wanted to emphasize and stress, we really realize that there's a grassroots movement happening to really get media literacy, specifically news literacy, into schools. There are a lot of educators who are already doing this on a daily basis, who are incorporating news literacy into their curricula and into their classroom lesson plans. And so we wanted to support that effort and to create a community of educators that are working on this. So we recently launched in February of this year, Newslit Nation, which is also on newslit.org if you click the Educators tab. And the idea here is to bring together educators from across the spectrum, from all different contexts, to come together to talk about news literacy education, to talk about best practices, to receive incentives from NLP, but also to receive support. Because we found out that a lot of educators felt like they were doing this work in silos because they may have been the only one in their school, the only one in their district who had any interest in news literacy education. And we wanted to let them know that there are thousands of other educators who are also doing this work every day, who have found solutions and breakthroughs and ways to advocate on the ground level for news literacy education, because we understand what's at stake and how important it is. And if 2020 has taught us anything, it was just the perfect storm of misinformation. And we're going to spend a lot of years recovering from what has happened in the last year and even before that, because it didn't start in 2020. That was just a part of a larger issue that happened way before 2020 ever got here. So it is imperative and incumbent upon us as parents, as educators, as adults, to be as informed as we possibly can, and to make sure that the next generation can participate in our democracy. And as we're not teaching them what to think, but how to think very critically about the things that they're seeing as they're scrolling on their timelines, as you all have learned in your sessions. So we understand how important this work is now more than ever. And I just want to invite you all to join with us at the News Literacy Project in any way you can. Again, if you're an educator, please join newslit.org and join Newslit Nation. If you are not an educator, that's fine. Please share it out. Everything that we do and we have is free. There is nothing at cost to you on our website, and we work very diligently to quickly and accurately produce resources so that we can combat this misinformation. I heard it described as a cancer just this morning, this misinformation cancer. I think it was Bruno in one of the sessions. But we are working to find solutions, and we believe that one of the greatest cures is education, which is why events like this is so important. So again, I am honored to be here with you all. James, I just want to thank you so much for taking leadership in this event, and to every one of you who are participating, thank you. Your presence here is so important. And I'm going to stay around as long as I possibly can. I'm going to put my email in the chat. You're all welcome to connect with me or connect with James. James is, again, one of our news literacy ambassadors and has just been phenomenal. But I will make sure that everything that I just described to you, I'll put links in the chat, even though they can all be found on our website, and I'll put my email address in the chat. I'd love to connect with you all, to learn about what you're doing, hear about your ideas, and make sure that we are raising up an informed citizenry for the next generation. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Miss Ebony. Give her a round of applause or something like that. Yeah, all right, good stuff. So Ebony said she's gonna try to hang around as long as she can. I wanted to get her in before she had another meeting. She helps do these all across the country, so she's always got something going on. But she is now a Texan, right? She is now a Texan.
I am a Texan. Which is honestly, the CT time throws me off. So I thought my next thing was at 12, but it's 12 Eastern. So that's where the mix-up happened. But I'm getting used to being on Texas time.
Yeah, she got to get used to it when you come from the East Coast. We did is. Well, all right, good stuff. So Tanya, we're gonna flip it back over to you so we can continue on. I just want to make sure we got Ebony in before she went, because she had some very, very important information for us from our co-sponsor News Literacy Project.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we're going to transition now into our featured guest speaker for today, Kristen Mattson with Educating Digital Citizens. Kristen is an experienced school library media specialist, educational consultant, adjunct professor, writer, and speaker, and author of Digital Citizenship in Action, Empowering Students to Engage in Online Communities, and the forthcoming Ethics in a Digital World, Guiding Students Through Society's Biggest Questions. All right, so welcome, Kristen. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. This platform's a little new for me. Can everyone see my screen okay? I can see the chat. Awesome, thank you. Perfect. So I put together a little session for us today called Securing the Future, Educators Hold the Power to Save the World. And I am an educator, so I realize that a claim like that is kind of a big claim, but hopefully by the end of our time together, you will be in agreement with me that we have a pretty important power and that we can harness that power for good. Now, I got a nice introduction there at the beginning, but just to give you kind of the brief about me, I am a former English language arts teacher. I started my career teaching middle school English. Did that for about 5 years before becoming a high school librarian, which is where I've spent the last 8 years of my career. I actually just transitioned out this year and became an adjunct professor at the University of Illinois, where I am teaching media literacy, digital citizenship, and educational technology to pre-service teachers and pre-service school librarians. I'm also the co-founder of a partnership called the DigCit Doctors. I'm working with Dr. Leanne Lindsay out of Arizona, and together we are putting together products and supports for school districts who really want to thoughtfully integrate both digital citizenship and media and information literacy into their content area curriculum. I do have a couple of books out, and I know that in the introduction it said the forthcoming Ethics in a Digital World. It's actually in my hands now and available on Amazon, so that is pretty exciting and cool. I'm also a wife and a mom of 3 kids. I've got a dog at home that you may hear in the background, so I'll just apologize ahead of that, or like ahead of time for my obnoxious dog. If you would like to connect with me on social media, I would love to connect with you. You can find me at Dr. K. Mattson pretty much anywhere, like Twitter, Facebook, Clubhouse, LinkedIn. I'm kind of all over the place. And then I would love to connect with you through my partnership at DigCit Doctors on Twitter. Now, when I present, I always feel like I owe it to the audience to share something about myself that isn't like this Googleable list of things about me. All the things I've read about successful keynotes and TED Talks tell me that you're supposed to be more apt to buy into what I'm saying if you see me as a real person. So I'm going to share a little bit about my real self by telling you about one of my quirks. Lately, I have been kind of obsessed with the idea of wrong number text messages. And I first kind of heard about and got hooked into this wrong number text message space from this story that you may have seen, a several years old story, where a grandmother sent out a group text about Thanksgiving dinner, what time she wanted everybody to be over for dinner, and she got a text back from a grandson wondering, who is this? And it, turns out that it was a wrong number text message, but the grandma actually ended up inviting this grandson to Thanksgiving dinner, and they actually got together and had Thanksgiving dinner. And this wrong number text message has actually turned into a friendship and a Thanksgiving tradition that has spanned several years in time. Now, some of these wrong number text messages have made their way onto the internet. If you do a quick Google image search for wrong number text, you're going to find plenty of hours of enjoyment, I promise you. Some of them I assume are probably fabricated using some fake like text generators, but they still really make me laugh to imagine two complete strangers interacting in this way through text messages. Here's one that I found that really made me chuckle. Hey, would you like to go to the game tonight? It won't you free hot dog and soda. I would love to go to the game tonight. Sadly, I think you have the wrong number. No, I don't. We went to the game together. What game did we go to? With Sherry and Diana. We got high together, girl. Pretty sure we didn't get high together. Totally makes me laugh every single time that I read it. And when I scroll through all of these hilarious wrong number text messages, I often imagine how I would react if I ever got a fake text message myself. Like, I wonder if I would be as quick-witted as this guy, or if I would end up being super empathetic, probably because of my solid moral upbringing. This is the type of reply that I would have. I'm sorry, Pedro. But one day at work, it appeared that I maybe had my chance to find out how I would react in a true wrong number text message situation. I got a simple, hi, how are you text from a number that wasn't in my phone, but that did have the same area code as me. I was like, this is it. This is my chance. I'm gonna meet like a stranger and we're gonna have this funny text exchange. But then I also remembered that I have a 10-year-old who likes to give my phone number out on the playground like Skittles. And I could very easily be interacting with, one of her friends from school. So I'd have to play it safe, right? So I started with just this very generic reply. I'm doing well. How are you? And that's when things got a little bit more interesting. I got, very well, sir. Is it okay if I come by tomorrow? And I thought, you may have the wrong number because I am definitely not a sir. Then I immediately kicked myself because I thought, man, it's my chance to be funny, and I wasn't funny. But this person wasn't done yet. I got another text, and that text came along with a picture. Said, it's me, Brad. LOL, you're always playing. And at first I was like, oh, Brad's cute. I could play along with this for a little bit. But then I read the text that came along with the picture, and I realized that Brad really wasn't my type. And so I responded the way that most school librarians would, and I totally corrected his grammar. Whoops, there you go. So I think Brad realized, hey, maybe I'm not playing around with somebody, because he quickly kind of backed out of that, since nobody but teachers care about grammatical correctness, right? So he was working his way out of the conversation. I figured I would be nice and let him off the hook and tell him to have a great day. But then he decided he still wasn't done with this information exchange. A good hour went by, and I got a text asking for some personal information. And that's when I said, game on, Brad. And I decided I had to find out who this random texter actually was. So I did something that I learned how to do as a school librarian. I took the image that I had gotten sent to me from Brad, and I pasted that image into a Google image search, and I wanted to see what I came up with. So here's a little video of my process. So as it turns out, I wasn't actually talking to some incredibly attractive man named Brad who just happened to text me out of the blue. The picture that I was sent was actually Olivier Giroud, a professional soccer player from France. I am not a French soccer follower by any means, so I was very surprised to see that this guy is actually kind of famous. He's the nation's third highest goal scorer. He's won several different World Cups. And I thought it was funny that I found the exact picture on the internet that Brad had sent to me. So, I did what I wanted to do, and I said, oh my God, Brad, I found you on Twitter. And I shared the exact tweet with him that he had, stolen the picture from. And that, my friends, is how really savvy school librarians end up saving the day and winning. But, like all good stories, you can't keep a story like this to yourself. So I did several screenshots and I shared the story out on social media, particularly on my Facebook page. And I had a lot of friends and family members say, whoa, how did you do that? How did you figure that out? I've never heard of Google reverse image search. This is really cool. Could you teach me? And through some of those comments that I got about this story, I realized that I tend to walk through life with a little bit of a bias. I tend to move through my day forgetting that as an educator, that as a school librarian, I have a pretty specific skill set that not everyone in the general public has. And while it is pretty cool to be able to own some random person who happens to text you just for laughs, you and I both know that there are better uses for this particular skill set that educators have. Now, in researching for my second book, I did a lot of reading about the ways that social media has impacted us as a society as a whole. And as I read, I made my way down a rabbit hole of ways in which social media influenced the 2016 election, the role that social media has played in politics since the election, social media's role in the 2020 election. And in this reading, I came across the work of Drs. Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Ziblatt. They are political scientists and professors at Harvard University. And they are co-authors of this book, How Democracies Die, which was published in 2018. And in this book, Ziblatt and Levitsky basically go through a history of fallen democracies and really look for patterns to try to identify what it is that makes a democracy kind of collapse upon itself. And I was surprised to read that the biggest threats to American democracy, or democracies in general, aren't necessarily, external enemies that we might have. They are not economic threats. Levitsky and Ziblatt really argue that the biggest threat to democracy today is polarization and extreme partisanship. And I think it is pretty clear, no matter what side of the aisle that you sit on, that our country is currently in a place of pretty extreme division. And so the question is, how did we get here? And what can we do as educators to help break that cycle of polarization and partisanship for the next generation? Now, Levitsky and Ziblatt point to the erosion of political gatekeepers as one of the reasons for our extreme polarization. And the television news broadcast on 3 major networks 3 times a day that I remember from childhood has really been replaced by a cable news network, a 24-hour news cycle, a rise of alternative media outlets, the delegitimization of credible sources, and the News Literacy Project. I love these little research briefs that they put out on their website. You can find these research briefs if you search News Literacy Project. Did you know? I'm going to share a few of them with you, but there are many more there. Many in the general public really fail to recognize the differences between journalists, news reporters, news commentators, opinion reporters. Research published as part of the 2018 Media Insight Project report that 50% of the public were unsure of what the term op-ed meant. And there's this pressure, right, for ratings and for filling airtime and for making money, which means that outlets like Fox News and CNN are filling their 24-hour news cycles with an abundance of the commentary, the op-eds, and yet people hang on to these every sensationalized words that the commentators share. Research published in the Journal of Communication shows that the loss of local news outlets actually results in greater polarization in voting in that region. And as more political figures use the term fake news to discredit stories that they don't approve of, We are also seeing the rise of alternative media outlets like Breitbart News and Occupy Democrats, whose priorities really are clicks and monetization and profit over journalistic standards and ethical reporting. Now, it isn't just this erosion of political gatekeepers that has gotten us here. We are also in a place of extreme polarization because people generally lack the ability to navigate today's information landscape. We are all sick of the term fake news, at least I am. But there is a lot of information out there that is overly sensationalized, that is intentionally biased, and sometimes information is just plain wrong. I do sessions with students where I break down 5 different types of misinformation, and if we can help them recognize and name these different types, I think that we are able to really empower them with the skills to navigate this news space much more critically. Now, this large portion of the population who lacks basic information literacy skills is not just our students. I shared a link earlier to a multi-generational media literacy event, just hearing some of the reflections from the breakout room about how important these skills are for older generations, for teachers who are teaching today. The research really does back the fact that it is our oldest and our youngest parts of the population that struggle most with these skills. Research published by YouGov says that the oldest and youngest consumers admit to falling for fake news the most. There's another research piece at NYU that found that during the 2016 election, people over the age of 65 were twice as likely to share fake news on social media as people ages 45 to 65, and they were actually 7 times more likely to share fake news as people in the youngest age bracket, which was 18 to 29. So we have a lot to teach our students, but we also have a lot of catching up to do with adults as well. Researchers with the Stanford History Education Group, another great resource if you're teaching news and media and information literacy, they found that 2/3 of middle school students could not tell the difference between an actual news story and a sponsored advertisement on a web page. We have a lot of work to do. Now, as the ways we access information has changed, people have not necessarily changed with it. 58% of Americans say that they feel less informed today because of the overwhelming amount of information they must wade through. We think, information is everywhere. It's so easy to be informed. And yet people are saying it's too much. I don't know where to turn. I don't know what to trust. Now, we have adults in schools who are not as equipped as they could be trying to lead students through the most complex information landscape to date. And in addition, we have filter bubbles and algorithms designed to give us more of the information we want to see, which can also lead people into more misinformation and disinformation. Now, we also have this increased access to unconventional ideas and ideals. We have a proliferation of hate speech and trolling and disrespectful, unproductive online discourse that really encourages people to take sides and win rather than to open up and to learn. People who hold hate-filled beliefs, whether that is against racial groups or sexual orientations or genders or immigration status, are able to find each other and unite online in communities that are really fed on a shared hatred and constantly reinforced with their anti-whatever ideas. The consequences for hate speech are not always visible. We do not see social media companies rallying to shut down accounts or groups. We've also heard executives like Mark Zuckerberg say that they prefer to stay out of the business of censorship. And because of the way that algorithms work, people are fighting to argue against hate speech, might inadvertently be pushing said hate speech further into the light. So essentially, it's easy for people to feel right when they are surrounded by others who hold their same beliefs. Unfortunately, this just leads to further polarization. So now that I've depressed all of you, let me give you a little bit of hope. Because if you remember, this session was called How Educators Can Save the World. And I do think that we have the power to do something about all of that yucky stuff that I just talked about. Now, in addition to our ongoing work as teachers to foster equity and diversity and inclusion with intentionality, I also think that we can really work to redefine this idea of digital citizenship, that we can push to bring media literacy education into K-12 schools, that we can reprioritize information literacy in our curriculum. And really, we are the best people who are equipped to do all of these things. Now, the first way that we can tackle the problem of extreme partisanship and democratic polarization, I think, is to redefine the term digital citizenship and really start to couch that into our humanities. Now, the hottest topics in schools today seem to revolve around technology integration, especially after this pandemic, right? STEM, everybody's concerned about making sure our students have all of the skills they need to compete in a highly technological future. Coming from the library world, I am seeing a huge shift toward maker spaces and encouraging all students to have access to coding skills. And we really do recognize that the jobs that our students will have in the future will require them to have a solid foundational knowledge of technology. We know that our kids are going to have to be problem solvers. They're going to have to be critical thinkers. And a focus on STEM is certainly one way to help accomplish these things. But if we look beyond education and put our eyes to Silicon Valley, we actually start to see a different story. Because tech companies are starting to ask questions, not so much around what they can build next, but whether or not the technology that they are creating is actually ethical for humanity. One of my favorite people working in this space is David Ryan Polgar. I'd encourage you to connect with him on social media at Tech Ethicist. He says that an engineer is someone who looks for a solution to a problem, whereas a tech ethicist looks for the problems in that solution. And if we take a look at Google Trends, I love Google Trends. If you haven't checked it out, just go Google Trends and you'll find it. Google Trends lets us take a look at search interest in different topics over time. So what you're looking at right now is just a quick graph of the topic of educational technology over the last 5 years. That is that blue line, just seeing like how it's trended over the last 5 years. I bet if I redid that graph, it would probably be spiking around 2020. But the red line that you see at the bottom is for a search for the ethics of technology. Quite a gap between our desire to bring technology into the classroom and our ethical concerns about the impact of that technology we bring in. Here's another comparison. We spend a lot of time again in schools talking about integrating STEM, all of those courses around coding and engineering and technology, mathematics, but where are we falling with the human side of technology? That red line is the search for digital citizenship over the last 5 years. And so the question that I keep coming back to when I think about where we are in schools right now is, are we developing engineers or are we developing tech ethicists? And which one should we be giving more credence to? Now, I've made the argument before that we really need to rethink digital citizenship as more than just a list of things that we need to do to be safe online. I think oftentimes in schools, people hear that term digital citizenship and they think that it is about anti-cyberbullying, that they think it is about teaching kids to keep their passwords safe and not talk to strangers online. And while that's such a very small, important component, I think we really need digital citizens who can wrestle with some of the important ethical questions that strike us right at the center of technology and humanity. In my new book, Ethics in a Digital World, I present 6 big ethical questions that I think all people should be wrestling with today. But the book is really written specifically for secondary educators, maybe 5th grade through 12th grade. It is designed to help teachers and students have these conversations and explore these gray areas together in a classroom. So things we can be thinking about: access to information. Is it time to better regulate the internet? And if the answer is yes, I think we have a whole nother question: how and who? And through what means do we do that regulation? Privacy in a digital age. Are we talking to our students about how much privacy they're willing to give up? Not just what are they putting out there online for a college recruiter to see, or what are they putting online that their grandmother might see, but what are they willing to give to technology companies who are taking their personal information and using it for profit? Are we having those conversations with our students in schools? I think it's really, really important that we help our students understand the role that human bias can play in the technology that we use every day. There's definitely this promise, right, that artificial intelligence is going to be able to help get rid of bias in decision making. We can take all of these unknowns and write a code that will spit out a decision, and none of us will have to actually do that hard work of deciding who gets a loan or who gets a job or who gets out on parole early. And yet there are algorithms at work in all of these spaces already. And so the question is, are these algorithms actually helping reduce bias, or are they perpetuating some of the biases of the people who created those tools? The future of work. Is innovation helpful or harmful? We are definitely seeing a shift in workplaces today. I never thought a year and a half ago that my husband and I would both be working from our homes. And yet here we are, and we really aren't all that excited to have to go back to an office. And so we have to help our students think about all these different ways that work is changing, and how they will need different skills to change along with it. I was in the high school group earlier today, and I was excited to hear some conversation around this question of technology and mental health. Is it a cause? Is it a cure? Is there correlation, or is there just causation? Our students are struggling with these topics, and I think the more that we can empower them through safe conversation, the better off they will be. And then finally, social media and society. Is what we see online really a flashlight, like shining a light on who we are as a society, or is it just this flame that has caused us to maybe not be as good as we thought we were? Now, in order to continue refining digital citizenship, rethinking about how we can help our students be better humans in this highly technological society, I think that one of the best ways to do it is to open up conversation. So I am going to put a couple of pictures up on the screen right now. And in the chat, I would love to hear from you after I give you this prompt. With this prompt, I've done many different professional development sessions. I've done sessions for parents, teachers. I've used this with students. I love to put these 3 images up on a board. They are all by the exact same artist. And in my mind, they all sort of portray a human relationship with technology. So my question to you is, if you had to choose just one of these pictures, which one would you say is the best representation of humans' relationship with technology? Now, that can be your personal relationship if you like, but I'd encourage you to think even bigger, like humanity's relationship with technology. In the chat, let me know which picture is the best representation of humanity and technology and why you chose it. I'm going to give us a couple minutes to share our thoughts in the chat. Bruno says number 1. If you can give us some why, that's helpful too. The chat didn't scroll on its own. You guys have been chatting. James says 1 if he's hopeful, 3 if he's pessimistic. Typically when I do this session, and please keep sharing your thoughts, typically when I do this session live with people, I will actually have the entire audience stand up and move to different corners of the room based on their choice. And what's interesting to me is that the room almost always splits very evenly into these 3 different camps. And after the room splits, I give people some time to just have some conversation. Why did you pick this picture? What do you think about it? And then I force people to make eye contact with someone who made a different choice than them and go have a conversation with someone who chose differently. Now I hear, I hear what, is it Mary Nell? Sorry, says about number 2. I hear that a lot. Technology really can be a ladder to seeing the world outside of the little bubble that we live in. I hear a lot of people talking about number 1 as, we have all of these possibilities with technology, and yet we are still kind of tied down. We're not completely free. It's not the same as actually going and being out in the world. And then number 3, people share a lot of their personal stories about how they make choices to view the world through this really narrow lens of a particular social media app or a particular set of websites. And even though the door is open to more information, to a bigger, better picture, people don't always want to choose that big picture. They'd rather keep looking through those narrow blinders. Now, I do this activity with students and families and parents to remind people that when we talk about that human interaction with technology, there really are no right or wrong answers, because we've all had different experiences that we bring to the table. And that really just sets the stage nicely to be able to get into some of these topics, recognizing that we aren't all going to have the same things to say about these difficult topics. Now, one criticism that I have of these 3 images is that each one of them really presents an individual relationship between one person and technology. What it doesn't do is depict that an individual can have relationships with communities that are accessible through that device. And when I think about our typical ways of talking to students about digital citizenship, about media and information literacy, it is very individualistic. You have to protect yourself. You have to not put out anything that's going to make you look bad. We rarely spend time talking about the communal aspects of being connected in this digital world. So if I were to propose, again, when I started my research, digital citizenship, it was internet safety, it was cyberbullying, stranger danger. Don't look at inappropriate content. Don't share too much. Don't post something you don't want your grandmother to see, because all grandmothers are great moral compasses, right? I don't know. And I was very kind of frustrated by that rhetoric, because not only was it very negative in telling kids what they shouldn't do, and I'm very much a proponent of empowering kids with skills, but it was very one-sided. It didn't talk about that communal aspect of being in digital community together. So my first book, Digital Citizenship in Action, was published in 2017. And at the time, it was kind of unique in that it suggested that digital citizenship should be more than just a personal set of rules or behaviors to follow, because it left out this whole beautiful conversation about us being globally connected, that our communities were no longer local, that we were all citizens of these various global communities through the power of the internet. And if we know that that is true, and if we adopt this idea that our students are all parts of a global community, the ways that we talk and teach them about interacting in these spaces really do have to change. I make the argument that digital citizenship curriculum really has to strive to show students possibilities, not just problems, opportunities, not just risk. And we have to start talking about community success, not just all of the personal gains that can come from branding yourself or going viral or all these other conversations that tend to take place in schools related to digital citizenship. And one of my favorite places to start to embed these really rich digital citizenship conversations is in the social studies classroom. This is a picture of a social studies classroom in the high school where I was working last year. This is a government class of juniors, so like 16 and 17-year-old students. And with the partnership of this teacher and his government class, we were able to start exploring some really great topics like, can social media slacktivism, that's basically activism that you do online, does it actually help? Can it have an impact in areas of social justice? This was a question we put out to a group of 16 and 17-year-olds, and let me tell you, they were bought in. They researched, they read, they discussed, they tried to come to some type of consensus about whether or not the activism that they were doing online was actually making a difference. We asked students if governments or private companies should be allowed to block content that they deem inappropriate. We've had lots of conversations about, freedom of speech and the First Amendment, and helping students sort of tease out and understand where those rights are upheld and where those rights are not upheld, like on private company platforms like Twitter and Facebook, but really helping students understand those differences. Again, we ask students questions like, do the benefits of artificial intelligence outweigh the risks? Should there be some type of privacy guidelines for internet users? If so, who creates them, companies or Congress? And these are topics that students care about. They impact their everyday lives, and they can so easily be tied into social studies standards. Again, I am presenting this claim that digital citizenship is our humanities curriculum of today and of tomorrow. And that is why we have to prioritize information and media literacy education for all students. Now, my own kids, my three personal children, I feel like are really pretty lucky to have a librarian as their mom, because we are constantly talking about issues related to digital citizenship and media and information literacy. But as an educator, I want all kids to have the same level of exposure to these ideas and practice with these skills, which is why it is important that we continue to push to prioritize information and media literacy education in our schools. So the concept of an informed digital citizen gives me the opportunity to switch gears a little bit and brag on my son, William. He was in 8th grade in this picture. He's now a freshman. And he's really started dipping his toes into the social media waters. He came to me one day while I was probably busy doing something in the kitchen, and he said, "Look what I just saw on Instagram." And he stuck his phone in my face and showed me this. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. What are the odds of that happening? And my son looked at me and he goes, "Mom, pretty slim because it didn't happen. Look what else I found." And he takes his phone, shows me this. So after he shows me that clip, I was like simultaneously like super proud of him for actually thinking about what he saw and going and doing some investigation. And then I was also a little embarrassed that I didn't question the content myself. I was just kind of like, yeah, cool, buddy, whatever. But I know that William's ability to evaluate sports clips on Instagram today is going to translate and continue to translate into him being able to evaluate claims and evidence and information of all kinds for the rest of his life. Now, again, I'm a huge fan of Google Trends. Educational technology, it's up there. We're pushing it. We're talking about it. We're infusing it. But are we infusing that information literacy alongside of it? Namely, I'm going to just go off script here for a minute, and I'm going to give a shout out to NAMLY, which is the National Association for Media Literacy Educators. They are a free organization that you can join. They have tons of great resources for you to bring media literacy education into your classroom. And they put out a State of Media Literacy report every year, which I find incredibly fascinating to look at. They talk about how there are all of these things that get in the way of media literacy education in schools. Time, of course, being an issue. So anytime I think we can embed media literacy into our content areas is helpful. The other barrier that they talk about is a barrier to resources, which is why I'm so excited that organizations like the News Literacy Project and NAMLY and the, I'm going to give you the SHAG, COR is the other one you need to go look for. Oops, I said it twice. Now you'll really find it. You will be able to find resources that are already available and easy to bring into the classrooms without you having to do too much extra work. I'm looking at the time. I know we started a little bit late. James, would you mind jumping on and let me know, like, do we need to wrap up quick?
No, we don't.
We can keep going?
You can keep going because the time after you was Ebony's time. So Ebony's already gone. You are good to go.
Perfect. All right. So I want to play a little game with all of you. If you have another device like your phone, or if you want to open up a new tab, I'm going to have you head over to tinyurl.com/easyquiz20. And this is actually a resource from the News Literacy Project. Typing it in myself here. This is a super fun activity to use with students. Stop sharing my slides so that you can see the quiz. I'll share differently. Sorry, got into the too many tabs issue. There we go. All right, so the News Literacy Quiz, the easiest quiz of all time. Great resource to bring into a classroom. I am going to encourage you to play on your own. I'm going to click through just a few of these myself, and I would love to see what you end up getting as your score. So the directions say it's easy. There are no rules. You can double check before selecting your answer. After you answer, click the arrow buttons to advance. So pretty easy. Finish this iconic film quote, blank, I am your father. Apparently I was wrong there. Okay, let me try another one. In the original Snow White, what famous phrase activates the queen's mirror? Pretty sure it's mirror, mirror on the wall. No, I'm wrong again. It's magic mirror on the wall. All right, let me try one more. Hopefully you're doing better than me. What accessory does Monopoly mascot Rich Uncle Pennybags wear? Pretty sure he's got a little monocle. No, he does not. He has a top hat, a mustache, and a cane. Okay, so I am failing miserably the easiest quiz of all time. Hopefully you're doing better, and you can definitely keep going and see what your score is. Switching screens again here. Let's see how people on the street did with this same easiest quiz of all time. Hopefully the volume's okay. If it's not, let me know in the chat.
Kristen, we have a request for the tiny URL for your quiz as well.
No sound.
Which accessory?
I briefly heard some sound, Kristen, then I didn't.
You did, and then you stopped hearing sound? That's really weird because I didn't do anything different. Let me try one more time. If you don't hear it, we'll just summarize and move on.
Yeah, just heard it at the very beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep
no big deal. No big deal. We'll move on. So this video also available for you to show your students. I'm going to just give you the YouTube link so that if you would like to watch it later, you can. Basically, the people on the street are doing the exact same quiz that you're doing at your seat. Oh, I'm on the struggle bus with all my screens. They're doing the exact same quiz that you're doing on your screen. And they realize very quickly, like, wait, there's no rules. I could use my phone. I can actually look this stuff up. And so as the video keeps going, I'm going to have to stop sharing. As the video keeps going, people realize, like, wait, I can actually look up these questions as you're giving them to me. And the guy's like, yes, totally, you can look up the questions as I'm giving them to you. And so people start to realize that, like, they don't have to rely on what's in their brain. There's the YouTube video. People don't have to, like, rely on what's in their head, that they actually do have these resources available at the tip of their fingers. But what I love about it is that you can really use this as a launch for students to get them to begin really investigating and thinking about, you know, what is it that I think I know? How can I utilize the resources that I have available to me to double check the information that I think that I know? And then as a launch for additional skills like lateral reading, keyword searching, all of these other pieces that we know are very, very important. Okay, I think we're back. And you've got the YouTube link as well if you do want to try to check it out on your own later or show it to students. So again, being able to look up information is definitely a particular skill. Can I, you know, Google a trivia question to, you know, get, I don't know, some points in bar trivia? Sure, that's one thing. But we also want our students to be able to have this critical eye even after they Google or look for and find the information that is available to them. Now, last year, you know, right before we left school for COVID, Kobe Bryant died in that helicopter crash alongside his daughter and 7 other people who were on that helicopter. And I started looking for news and information about his death and just grabbing some different like screenshots of tweets and news headlines that had been coming out in the, you know, the first few hours after this event. Looking back, there was so much misreporting of this event. And a lot of what was misreported is still available for us to find online. We had misreports that like many of his daughters died, not just one of them. We had a report here where they were talking about Kobe Bryant, but they were showing pictures of LeBron James with the headline. President Trump even tweeted out that, you know, Kobe and 3 other people were killed in a crash when it was more like 8 other people. At one point, Epstein's face was tied in with a Kobe Bryant headline. Others were reporting that Vanessa Bryant had died as well. And so even though our students can find information, there's a whole other level that has to happen to actually make sure that what they are seeing is credible. One last link I want to share with you. Kind of shouted it out, but I want to actually give you the link. Is from the Stanford History Education Group. And they are doing a phenomenal job helping teachers teach their students all the different ways that you can actually verify the information that you are reading. They're teaching students skills like lateral reading, where I actually leave the page that I'm on and I go and search out and see what other news stations are reporting about this event. And I do a little bit of research about the actual author of this page and figure out, what that author's bias might be, or where the money might be coming from to fund this particular resource. All of their sources are free, and they are all built on the Google Apps for Education platform. So it's really easy to just go in and grab a lesson, make a copy of the Google Docs that are the handouts for your students, and it's phenomenal. Paired with News Literacy Project, you could have an entire semester worth of stuff to do with students to help them really critically evaluate and see what they need online. Now, information literacy, media literacy, news literacy, digital citizenship, these aren't the trends that we're seeing in school today. I'm hopeful post-pandemic that we are going to start to have more and more of these conversations, and that we're going to see a shift, back to prioritizing these different humanities skills. So I would encourage you, based on the breakout sessions that you were in today, based on some of the things that I talked about, a lot of the different resources that were shared, to just start to challenge yourself. What are some new skills and content knowledge that you can add to your educator superhero cape? And how can you go about becoming more aware, more knowledgeable yourself in order to better support your students? And then again, how are you going to use those new superpowers, those new things you've learned when you return back to school? Because in the end, it really is educators, I think, that are going to be able to save the day. So here is my contact information just one more time. I would be so happy to connect with any of you further after the presentation, anytime into the future. This is work that I'm super passionate about, and so I feel very blessed to be in this space with all of you who are also passionate about this work. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Can we give a round of applause, some hands here to Miss Kristen Mattson? Good job. Kristen, I was hoping to see your dog. You kind of made me think the dog was going to come and.
She's napping. I don't know. She must be taking a nap. Sorry.
Awesome. Great stuff. And Kristen, thank you for participating in our middle and high school group as well. And some of you will receive copies of Kristen's first book as well today. So we'll be kind of randomly selecting some folk who participated, and we'll be reaching out to you, getting your addresses for you to receive copies of our book and the books of our folk in our other sessions. They've given us some names from folk who are really active in the sessions, as well as some random people that we're going to pick. So that's good stuff. All right, Tanya, do you want to take over from here?
Yes. So we're coming to the conclusion of our event. So we just have the last few minutes just to share any final thoughts, any final questions, and then also I'll have James talk a little bit about our next event, and also a little bit about how you can stay connected with Intellectual. So before we get into that, anyone have any final thoughts, either about Dr. Mattson's presentation or just about anything that we've talked about today? Anyone want to share their thoughts?
Unmute it and have a go, y'all. Or you can put it in the chat. I see some people put it in the chat too. Some people feel more comfortable with that as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to just share, I really appreciated so many of the resources that Kristen shared with us. And it really kind of highlights to me just how much stuff is out there. There's so much good resources that we don't need to keep reinventing the wheel, but we do need to put in the time to be able to look at them, the different things, and try to figure out how to use them, and what would work best. So it's just exciting. I mean, I wrote down all these different links, and I definitely want to start exploring them. So thank you very much for sharing.
Jeff, let me also mention Nolan had to leave a little bit earlier. Y'all, he's taking care of his godson. So he wanted me to tell everyone thank you, and he's so like Jeff said, he appreciated the resources that other people gave him, as well as what he was able to present today. But Jeff, I was going to ask you, maybe you and Renee, or you, if you want to talk about Critical Media Literacy Conference of the Americas. This is a great opportunity for us to kind of mention that as well, especially because we have international audience here. You feel comfortable doing that, Jeff, or
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff. You the man.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And maybe Andrea, if you could put the link to the conference. We just posted the call for proposals. It's a conference that's going to be both online and in person in October. I think it's October 16th and 17th. It'll be in the Bay Area, San Francisco area, and it will be online. So you don't have to travel if you don't want to. It'll be bilingual. We're going to try to make it in English and Spanish. So any folks in Latin America, please reach out to us. Let us know if you want to be involved in the planning. That would be fabulous. We definitely want to make this of the Americas. Last year, our first time we did it, we weren't able to get our act together enough to really start to reach out. So that is a goal this time. And I know there's so many more languages than just Spanish and English, but we're starting small. And so that's our first attempt is to be bilingual and bicultural. And so this conference, it's open for people to submit proposals as well as come and observe and join us. It's fascinating. Last year we had such wonderful presentations. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Jeff. I knew you'd do the perfect job of getting it out there for us.
Mm-hmm.
I think some other people are going to have some questions or comments, so you can read some of the stuff that's in the chat as well, Tanya, until people speak out vocally.
Yes, a couple of comments in the chat. Let's see, let me scroll back here. Excellent presentations. Referencing Dr. Matson's presentation, I like the emphasis on humanities with our current preoccupations with technology. Thank you, Dr. Mattson. This has been a really great session today. Thank you all for sharing such great resources. Fantastic presentation. Yeah, Susan says, as a school librarian, I'm thrilled to see Dr. Mattson's work in media literacy. Thank you, Dr. Mattson. Go librarians. And we've got some other resources, yes, that are being posted in the chat. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, session is great. Privileged to be a part of it. Thank you, everyone. So,
Kristen, I'm hoping
in the chat.
Kristen, I'm hoping we can get you back for Critical Media Literacy Conference of the Americas as well, right?
That would be awesome. My whole dissertation was a critical discourse analysis of digital citizenship curriculum. That was my dissertation. So I could totally share some of that research.
Absolutely.
That'd be fun.
Right. More comments coming in.
I saw Andrea's like, yeah. Yay, CDA! Like, you have to be a real nerd to appreciate CDA. I love it.
Yes,
All
Dr.
right.
Mattson, I really appreciated the style of your presentation and the way you bridged the information you shared with personal stories. Yes, I agree with that. Well, okay. All right, so James, go ahead.
Oh, I think I'm about to do what you're about to tell me to do, so go ahead.
Yes, I'm going to see if I can share my screen just to show a little visual for our next event, and if you can maybe talk with the group about the focus of our next book talk.
All right, I certainly can. Thank you, Tanya. Y'all give a shout out to Tanya for being our super producer today, man. Yeah, I married up, as y'all can see and hear clearly. And her birthday was on the 13th, right? So April 13th was Tanya's birthday, so we can give her a little birthday as well. I won't say how old she is, but it's under 30 and over 28, right? We're going to do it like that. But as you know, Intellect, our organization is all about media literacy, digital citizenship, academic achievement, but also reading advocacy. We're really big on reading, and we have some events we call intellectual journeys. We have been doing them on video conferencing. Because of the pandemic, we do them in person when there's no pandemic. So you all over the world have an opportunity to participate in our next one, which is going to be June 27th, 3 p.m. Intellectual journeys. There's a different theme. The last one we had was African diaspora. We had 4 scholars talking about their works in African diaspora. That's on our YouTube channel. You can go back and watch it if you haven't had a chance to see it yet. But our next one is going to be fiction journey. So we've got 3 writers who and researchers and scholars who have written in some way about the fictional experience in African American culture. The Sacred Place, Daniel Black, he's a professor at Clark Atlanta, and he has a historical fiction version of the Emmett Till situation in Money, Mississippi, the Emmett Till murder. And Mitch Kashun here in the middle, some of y'all may have never heard of this, which is the reason why he brought it back. But the first novel written by an African American woman, Julia C. Collins, it's an unfinished novel, and he and one of his research partners found it. It was kind of serialized in newspapers like Uncle Tom's Cabin. So they put it all together, and then they actually gave you a couple of alternate endings based on what they thought that she would have wanted it done and finished. So it's called, how they did back in the old days. They had 2 names for the book: The Curse of Cash or The Slave Bride. So Mitch is going to be with us talking about that, and then the popular fiction writer Ben H. Winters, multiple award-winning writer. He's going to be talking about his book Underground Airlines, which is kind of a alternate history of what if we're in modern America with some states that are still slave states. And he's got a murder mystery thriller type book rolled into an alternate history thing. So he's going to be talking about his book as well. So we got all 3 of them together. I'm really excited about this combination. If you've ever been to one of our Intellectual Journeys events, we have a lot of fun, and we kind of, chop it up in different ways. And one of the big things with us at Intellectual is to make sure that the ivory tower, there's a ladder from the ivory tower down to the people. So we try to make it as much as possible. And Renee, I always think about you, from some of our conversations when I talk about that, we want to make sure that people feel like scholars and writers are very accessible, because you'll find, just like Kristen said, hey, I would love to hear from you. So I try to bring the writers and the scholars we do in Intellectual to the people, and you'll find that they're very open to having these talks and discussions. Thank you, Renee, as well. So Tanya, how was that? That's our next event, Intellectual Journeys. If you like what we're doing here, we're going to have another one of these, Intellectual Development. That one's going to be focused specifically on communities. So it's not going to be for educators. It's going to be seniors. It's going to be, adults and young people. So we're going to talk with them specifically. This one is, educator related, because we're doing the News Literacy Project, but we're going to have another one of those, and we would love to see some of you all back for that, because we got into some of that in some of our sessions. But how as a young person, so Jeff, maybe you can come back and talk with the elementary students yourself specifically. Talk with the elementary students, the middle school students, and on up and above, doing that way. And then, of course, we've got Nature by the Book, which is we did this as a joint program we do with News Literacy Project, but we also do something with Outdoor Afro, the Outdoor Afro Network. And I think we had at least one Outdoor Afro person on, Benita. I don't know if Benita is still on, but Benita's still on. But with the Outdoor Afro Houston group, we do something called Nature by the Book, where we promote and read a book related to nature together. We've done Farming While Black, we've done Birding for Everyone, and the next one we're doing is Roots. How does it, Tanya? Roots, Sticks and Stones, or whatever. It's herb, but it's about herbs and natural medicines and healing and those kind of things. And we're gonna be doing that in August. And we're gonna be in person, but we're gonna try to record it or do something so we can kind of get people in from all over the world with that as well. So how'd I do, Tanya? Did I leave anything out? Did I talk about our local stuff that we've got coming on for Intellectual?
Yes, I think you covered everything well. So, I would just say if you are interested in participating in any of our events, you can stay connected with us online. We have Intellectual has a Facebook page. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. So pick your social media platform of choice, and you can find us there and stay connected with what we're doing. And you can see any events that we have coming up, and you're welcome to participate in any or all of them that you're interested in, and just keep connected with what we're doing and share your ideas for what you'd like us to see, or what you'd like us to focus on, or what you'd like to see, what you'd like to learn about. And we'd love to hear your ideas and think about how we can put together some programs that would be beneficial to you.
And follow us. If you follow us on Eventbrite, you'll never miss one of our programs. Because if you follow us on Eventbrite, then it'll let you know. It'll say this organization has a new event coming up. So definitely follow us on Eventbrite. And Tanya, you want to talk about our merch store for people who like our intellectual swag, right?
Oh yes. We do have a merchandise store for Intellectual that we have set up that helps us with our fundraising. So we have a series of T-shirts and sweatshirts with our Intellectual logo. We have mugs. I think we have tote bags. So a number of different items. If you're interested in purchasing those, you can find the link to that on our website, intellectual.org.
And stuck it in the chat as well.
Probably putting it in the chat, yes. So we're excited to have that merchandise store. So if you're interested in purchasing anything, and then we also we accept donations.
I'm looking at Andrea's face while I'm laughing.
Okay. We are, of course, a 501c3 organization, and so we do accept donations to help us fund the programming that we produce. So
you can donate right. You can donate right on our merch page at our merch store. Once we get our webpage updated, we're going to have it where you can donate right up there. But we have a PayPal, whatever you need. Email us. We'll make sure you find a way to donate. Right now, Tanya and I have a Facebook fundraiser, because both of our birthdays are April 9th, April 13th, so you can donate through Facebook as well.
All right, James. Well, that's all I had on our agenda for today.
Yeah, we got a few minutes left. Does anybody want to make any last comments? Did we read everything everybody said in the chat?
I was wondering, it has been a great presentation. I'm pretty amazed and thankful, that those associations exist to help us as an educator to become better educators. But I was wondering, I was thinking about that as a mother. Sometimes it's pretty hard to reach for teenagers about the pros and cons of using social media, how to help them how to become more critical thinkers, about how to use the social media to analyze, to use it in their advance. So is there any conference that kids could join or teenagers could join so they can hear from other people besides their closest one, how to become more critical thinkers, how we can use the social media, how we can use all the technology in their advance? So my question was, is there any other events that that where teenagers could participate, Well,
Renee, do you want to talk about Youthbeherd here a little bit?
Sure. Can you hear me? Let's see. Can you hear me?
We got you, Renee. Go ahead.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. My screen is frozen, so you've all had the same amazing faces for the last 20 minutes. But yeah, so youthbeherd.org is our organization is designed to help youth share their voices, because we see that all youth voices overlooked. So that's the side of being the creator and understanding how to read between the lines of media by creating it yourself. And we also we put out writing prompts, and some of those include things that would get them thinking critically about the media they consume. So it's like a weekly prompt. We don't currently have an event. Well, we have, like last night, we had a poetry event for youth, but we don't currently have like a conference or an event such as this for youth. And I think it's a really good idea. I actually took notes on it. So, I would love to connect with you further about that idea, because it's something that I think we could do. Because our age range is 13 to 24. That's our audience. So we could certainly look into doing something like that.
I agree, and even Critical Media Literacy Conference of the Americas. I know we talk about salon. This is kind of off the, we're kind of going to the side, but we talk about some of those salons and some of those kind of things. So Ms. Ching, you can maybe have some of your students participate in that conference that we've got coming up. And also, Ms. Ching, the event that I told you that we're going to have for community, intellectual development for communities. Let's talk. I sent you a LinkedIn invitation, but you can also email me. Let's talk, because we can look at doing some of those kind of things at that event. And we can also work with Renee, if Youthbeherd, and some other organizations. And there's some that I've been thinking about as you were saying, that I'm familiar with, that are out there that are kind of youth media literacy organizations. So let's talk offline. I can see you some of those as well. But also, we can create one. We got you. We're gonna do it. You heard my wife said we can do that. It's like Andrea's fired up too, so I think we can definitely do that. Renee put her email in the chat for you too, Ms. Ching.
Yes,
So,
I'm gonna go ahead and send you an email. But thank you. What I can say, thank you. I mean, I have so many ideas, so many thoughts, and I think that these organizations, what you are doing, is going to create a very strong and positive impact on our students and our community in general. And as a mother, and say, whatever I say to my daughter won't have the same effect if somebody else say it. So we have, right? I can say the same thing that you're saying, and she will block that. But if you say, okay, how we can become critical, to avoid mental illnesses, to avoid isolation, and and open a new door for technology, without being afraid for our society or kids get the wrong image.
Ms. Ching, I was going to also mention, I don't know if you caught me teasing Ebony earlier, but Ebony just moved to Dallas.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
She just moved to Dallas, so that's a connect for you as well. And hopefully you've joined Newslit Nation. If you haven't yet, join Newslit Nation, and you'll see I'm a Newslit ambassador for Houston, and so we're all up there. And I think, Jeff, you heading out, Jeff? Any last comments before you go? Is he already? Jeff, you got? I think Jeff might be gone.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody else before we go? We got another minute or two. We're going to close out. Bruno, do you have any final thoughts from Brazil for us?
Guys, I just want to thank you for this amazing event. It was a great opportunity to stay with people from other countries, and I'm really excited for the next one. I really want to participate in the conference. I think I can help with some ideas and anything you need. You can talk to me, especially if you want something with Portuguese, I can help with that too. So it's like,
we're probably going to need that translation.
Yes, I can help it, and we can talk. Okay.
All right. So we'll connect like we did via LinkedIn, and I'll connect you with our team. Bruno, I think Nolan already circled you when he was here. I think he already circled you on the list.
That's great. It feels great. Right. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. How about our friends from Malaysia and the Philippines? Are they still on? Any thoughts from that part of the world? They may have left. All right. Well, I think we got some messages in the chat here.
Hello from Malaysia. I'm still here.
Oh, hey, go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, all right. So, well, this was something that I did not expect, because actually this is my second session related to the media literacy and stuff. I actually joined one with the Philippines, Malaysia and the Philippines, I think a week ago. So I learned a lot from that session with Malaysia and Philippines collaborations. And when I bumped into this one, I kind of like, oh, all right, I need to learn from other sides of the world because I'm curious how it works in the other parts of the world. And listening to all of the sharing that you guys did just now was awesome. And of course, being a high school teacher myself, I really need to bring this into my classroom. And then, in fact, when I was listening, I was opening like 2 or 3 extra tabs just for the sake of like researching and then adding things that I think might be essential for me to bring into my classroom. So thank you for that, and I am looking forward for more in the future, I hope. Yeah. So it is such a great experience. And yeah, even though it's actually 1 a.m. here right now, but I'm still wide awake because everything is so like stimulating, and it actually triggers the brain to think, especially on how do I bring the whole thing I learned like tonight in my time into my own real life classroom. So thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Adam. And hopefully we'll see you at that Critical Media Literacy Conference of the Americas. I think you're really going to like that as well because it has even more of an international flavor. All right, good stuff. I think we're over time here, Tanya, so I guess we are officially done. All right, thank you everyone for participating today, and hopefully we'll see you at our next intellectual event coming in June, right? And Critical Media Literacy Conference of the Americas coming in October. Call for proposals is out, and even if you don't want to present, you can come in as a participant as well. Come see us live out in Oakland, or it'll also be online for you. All right, take care, everyone, and thank you, Renee, Nolan, Jeff, and Kristen, all our presenters today, and the intellectual team. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.